Lesson 2, topic zero product property. Learning target, I can apply the zero product property to solve a polynomial equation. So the zero product property says if two terms being multiplied equals 0, one of the terms must be equal to 0. The only way we can get 0 in a multiplication problem is by multiplying by 0. So we actually saw this with Catherine in the beginning of the Hidden Figures movie. When she was solving, she was applying the zero product property. So we are going to be working with factored form polynomial equations, which looks like this. We have two things being multiplied, and they're going to equal 0. So let's put in that zero product property. Let's apply that here. So we are going to solve x minus 4 times the quantity x plus 2 equals 0. So when we multiply this, we're going to multiply the difference of this. So let's just say x was 7. So if I put 7 in there for x, it'd be 7 minus 4 times 7 plus 2. Well, 7 minus 4 is 3, and then 7 plus 2 is 9, and that equals 27. Now, that's not 0. We want this to be 0. So what we want is the difference of x and 4 to be 0, or we need x plus 2, whatever that sum is, to be 0, so that the whole thing becomes 0. So if I look here, I know that x minus 4, to make 0 there, would be, I need x to be 4. 4 take away 4, I know is 0. So then if I put in 4 for the other x, 4 plus 2 is 6. But what's 0 times 6? Well, 0 times 6 is 0. So now in this example, our answers are a little easier to decipher. But to show you the process of figuring this out, we are going to split this into two equations. We're going to set x minus 4 equal to 0, and we're going to set x plus 2 equal to 0. We're going to take the two sets of parentheses, and we're going to set them both equal to 0, and that's going to give us our two solutions. We're going to have two solutions each time because we have two ways of making 0. We can either have this parenthesis equal 0, or this parenthesis could equal 0, and then that would give us 0 as our final answer. So we'd solve this equation, we'd add 4 to both sides, x could be 4, and then here we subtract 2 from both sides, x could be negative 2. So our final answer would be x equals 4, negative 2. Our two answers written together. So we're going to apply that same property over here. We have our two parentheses. We have 3x take away 7 equals 0, and we have 2x plus 5 equals 0. And we just solve our equations. We've been solving equations all year. We're really good at this. Undo minus 7 with plus 7 on both sides. We get 3x equals 7. Divide both sides by 3. We get x equals 7 divided by 3. Now you have two options. You can leave this as a fraction, 7/3, or we can use our calculator, do 7 divided by 3. We get 2.3 repeating. We just write that as that decimal there. And then we solve our second equation. We got 2x plus 5. We undo that plus 5 with minus 5. 0 minus 5 is negative 5. We get 2x equals negative 5. Divide both sides by 2. We get x equals negative 5 divided by 2. That doesn't go in evenly. So again, two options. We leave it as a fraction, negative 5 halves. Or we do our division. We get negative 5 divided by 2. We get negative 2.5. So then again, we write our answers together. I'm going to use the decimal form, x equals 2.3 repeating, comma, negative 2.5. All right, so now we have two examples where it's not factored and we have to factor it. Now a factor is just a number that multiplies to make something. So if we say 2 times 4 equals 8, 2 and 4 are factors. So we're going to rewrite our problem as factors. So 2x squared, I'm going to rewrite that as 2 times 1 times x times x. Because 2 times 1 equals 2 and x times x equals x squared. I'm going to kind of break it apart. Plus 8x, well, 8 can be rewritten as 2 times 4 times x. So then from those two parentheses, I'm going to take out anything that's the same. So I can take out a 2 and a 2 because they both have a 2. And I can take out an x because they both have an x. And then I'm going to rewrite what's left in my remaining parenthesis. I have a 1x plus 4. And we just rewrote this equation in factored form. So now that's in factored form, we can apply the zero product property. So we're going to set up our two equations. We have 2x equals 0, and we have 1x plus 4 equals 0. I'd like you to solve both those equations and tell me your answers in Edpuzzle. So our last example, very similar to our first one, except for, if you can see, it's not equal to 0. So to use the zero product property, we need our equation to be equal to 0. So we're just going to move this 15x over onto the other side by subtracting it. 15x take away 15x is 0. So now I have 6x squared minus 15x. I cannot combine those because they're not like terms. They both have an x, but the x is not raised to the same power. So now that I have my equation written equal to 0, I can now factor it. So again, I'm going to rewrite each of my terms. So 6x squared I can rewrite as 2 times 3 times x times x. And then minus, we have 15 I can rewrite as 3 times 5 times x. So again, we're going to take out what they have that's the same. So they both have a 3, and they both have an x. And then I rewrite what they have left in the parentheses. We have 2x minus 5. And this is all equal to 0. So now we have our two factors. We are in factored form. So now we just have to solve this. We split it up into our two equations. 3x equals 0 and 2x minus 5 equals 0. Again, I would like you to solve those two equations and check your answers in Edpuzzle.